Apache, what are you saying?
We're back again.
We're
Back again, yeah. No, it's nice
to
to be here. You can't get rid of me, because you're touching on some serious subjects and you're touching my nerve too. So I'm squeezing in on some of these debates. Yeah, and she's listen.
Rupinder's back.
I'm back.
I'm ready. Yeah,
Finally.
nice to see you. Yeah, brilliant. So
We've got two guests,
we've got two special guests here.
Tiran
So
and Jasvir from Core Voices.
Hi guys.
Yes, very nice to be
yeah,
here.
nice to meet you. Yeah,
Sorry,
beautiful.
me clapping.
Oh,
Okay.
Guys, let's get straight into it. This podcast is about talking about real issues facing the community, which always get brushed under the carpet. We're providing that platform now to kind of bring it to the forefront. We need to stop hiding and acting like these things don't happen, because it's impacting generations and generations and generations. Even if we can have one person from this, cool. And the topic, just for everyone at home, we're talking about is sexual abuse within the South Asian community. Now, everyone around this table has their own stories. Everyone here has examples of abuse that they've either seen firsthand, been victim of and survived, or they know someone who knows someone, or something. It happens, whether it's in the university places, the workplaces, within the family homes. It is happening, and we're never talking about it. And when victims do talk about it, then they're like, shush, don't talk about it. It never happened. We need to kind of bring these issues to the forefront. And before we get into anyone's stories, I just want to kind of put the question out as to why is it we're always kind of brushing it under the carpet? Why is it that we're now in the West, it's 2021, we still have the attitude of back in the days of these things are going to bring shame on the family. Don't talk about it. We're not worrying about, the victim, their mental well-being, how they're coping, the repercussions it's going to have down the line. We're more concerned about the here and now, the family pride. So I just want to throw it out there, like, why is it still a big issue that we're not helping, we're not supporting, there is nowhere to reach out to?
I think you said one of the key things there, the family pride, the base, the brushing under the carpet, all that is part of our culture with many of these issues. We're not going to move forward unless we address these issues and not wait till they become a problem to address them. A clever man sorts out a problem, a wise man avoids it. Avoid it by discussion, by debate, by using our platforms. As I said, I'll keep going back to my first album. I spoke about arranged marriage, I spoke about caste problems. I was only 23. I was trying to make sense of things, but I was trying to open a discussion. Not, look, he's talking about taboo subjects. There were real things that were bothering me at that time, even though I wrote a song about alcohol abuse, because I grew up within the Asian culture. But no one's really picked up on, we were 20 years where we could have used these platforms, and we haven't. But that family pride, that base, but we are kind of two-faced. We say one thing, we do another. We'd rather tell the girl to be quiet or the person who's been because we don't want the world to find out.
I think we overlook is that those are still socially constructed values, like even stigmas and taboos are still socially constructed. They weren't just there from day one. Do you get it? So as a society or a community, we've constructed those. So I feel like what you've just said, we need to debate about these things. To get a debate, I think that's like latter. But primarily, I feel like we need to talk about them even.
But
like just
a lot of these things have come, like you said, they've come from parents, and they come from different generations, and they come back from home. How is it allowed to grow and come here and still be relevant today?
The reason is that every generation has its purpose. And our parents' generation, they went through a lot of different things. If we look the things that are going on, like with the Kisan movement, and people are comparing it to the different events that took place in India, from partition to 84 and everything else that's happened, that impacts a generation heavily, right? Our parents and their whole generation had to move from India to foreign countries, learn the land, learn the way of the land, the languages, adjust into a different culture, tackle racism, all of these other complexities. They had to put roofs over our heads and clothes on our backs. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about surviving economically. That's been done for us. They weren't afforded the luxury of talking about their mental health, right? So for them, all they could do was inherit the ways that were given to them by their parents, which was shame and guilt, and be obedient. So they expected us as hybrids. So we are British Asians, right? We are part Indian and part British. We've got two cultures to merge together and find a new way which is different to them. So when we question their ways, they don't like it and they tell us to shut up. Because they're saying you should be obedient just like I was. But they don't understand what we faced on the ground. I don't think that they would have wished it upon us to have abuse. It existed in those generations, and it was caged into silence and locked away into boxes that were never meant to be opened and thrown at the bottom of the ocean. because they didn't have the infrastructure to support victims. A victim was never looked at as somebody who could survive in society as a dignified individual. If you've been tainted as a woman, you are the izzat of the house. This is a different experience for men and women in South Asian houses. Men can go through any type of a trauma and survive through it and still get married and still have kids and live a normal life. But if, God forbid, anything happens to a woman, she carries, whether it's your daughter or your wife or your sister, she carries the burden of being the honor of your whole household reputation. Imagine carrying that weight. Imagine one incident that is out of your control that has now defined the rest of your future. And if you live in that society, you know that people are going to make sure you never get married, you never find a dignified job, or you're not treated with respect in your community. And that culture still exists. We're not out of it yet. But the fact that we're having this conversation now is change enough, right? Yeah. We're steps closer. What you guys are doing here is the same reason that Core Voices was created, was to have these conversations, open the dialogue and say, you know what, let's not fault the people who came before us. They did the best that they could. They used the resources that were available to them.
I got to stop you there, in all due respect. Yes, they had things caged in the box, and that's what it was like, and the obedience. But that's different from sexual harassment. Sexual abuse is different from being obedient.
Right.
If you're trying to, so there's two different things. Yes, you came with a certain stereotype and certain way to rape. Yes, it's a different country, but that country is telling you that's wrong, and you know in your head that's wrong, because when it was happening to you, it was wrong. So
but
obedience
it was wrong, though?
Obedience is different from sexual abuse. If you don't know as an adult, sexual abuse is wrong.
But that's the thing. You know what? In India as well, there was a video that had come out a couple months ago where they were asking men in India, different people, how they felt about rape and everything. When it came to it, they just said, "Oh, the girl's walking alone," or "She's wearing that, so it's okay." So at the end of she asked for it. So at the end of the day, it does come back to like how cultural norms and everything, because in over here in Britain we would say, okay, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that. In India, that's probably the norm.
Carried on here though. They carried on here when they came.
Yeah, but that's what we're trying to change. I feel like with the core movement,
a change is coming, because if you look at the case that was it Dharmony in 2013, I think it was the girl that got gang raped in Delhi.
Yeah,
like that was an uproar in India. You had the youth, you had students, you had even young adults, everyone come collectively together to address that issue. And I feel like it's because, like what you said, the historic abuse, generation abuse, has progressed where, there's been so much like sort of burden on the victims. We've just sat around here discussing the victim. No one's even picked up on the perpetrators.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guy who's doing that, the girl who's doing that to that person. You know as a human being it's wrong.
Yeah.
So which point do you not know that? I don't have to be taught or read out of a book that raping, robbing, stealing, killing is wrong.
Yeah.
I don't need to go to a temple or anywhere to someone tell me that. Because I know that, yes, there's a lack of education in India. And I've worked on the streets in India, especially with sexual cases. I worked in brothels. I've worked with young kids who are only 5 already, and they're working because they just don't know better. I get it.
It's the concept of sex. It's like sexual abuse, then the word sex, then concepts related to it like virginity and like even, for example, like anything sexual violence, like rape, marital rape, all of these terms are seen as negative. Does that make sense? So if you use the term rape, it's instantly like, it's like, oh my God, that's a negative. It's in the negative box. But we need to see how, okay, maybe that person needs help. Does that make sense?
But the thing is, like, and there's a few things that have been said around this table, and there's a few things that I want to kind of raise. So I don't know who saw the latest Supreme Court ruling in India about if a woman's dressed in a certain way and you touch her, it's not considered sexual abuse.
Yeah,
as in, it's something that's got groping, something like that.
Yeah, the groping.
So
Really?
that's your court in a country kind of saying that and setting the kind of ethos and tone from
And
India.
this is the first I'm hearing that.
So
That is
we've got
ridiculous.
like,
Yeah.
if you've got a
Ridiculous.
fascist party and then
No,
you've
of
got
course.
like things like that,
So
you have to
that's one.
take that into
Now the
consideration.
second element about the girls holding a lot of power, willpower, etc. There was a video that escalated on social media of 3 university students where it was 2 guys and a girl. That video went viral beyond the UK into Europe. Not once did people talk about the girl. It was, let's label her this, let's label her that, let's label her that. And the guys were like, believe.
What was the
It
video
was
about?
made a joke.
There was 2 guys and a girl. It was a sex tape, basically, that got leaked.
Okay.
And it was,
quite
let's
a
not
while
worry about
back.
the girl. But the guys, you know what I mean? Boys smashed it. They've moved on with their lives.
So there you go. So so that's
and that
basically-
victim is still suffering.
But that's labelling. Boys will be boys,
Yeah.
and like so. Oh right, so the girl should know better. You get it? It's like like we always focus on like a woman should perhaps protect herself, protect her dignity, maybe dress in a certain way. And we
It
were
shouldn't
discussing
be like
this
that, no.
about like appearances, and I'm sure Jasvir will probably pick up later. Like out of us two, like what was the point?
Yeah, if we asked you guys, if you didn't know us, that which of us two
More like
would you think has been through an experience of sexual abuse in their life? If you looked at both
So
of us.
answer that question, guys.
Yeah, that's a question.
I have no idea.
I can't
So,
answer
so
that 'cause I
okay,
don't know.
if we ask you,
Okay.
Apache,
Yeah.
who do you think it would be
More
out of us?
likely.
If you just had to pick one.
How could you guess that then?
No, but if you were to,
That's
we're
because
asking
it's
you
not.
right now.
If,
If you're looking at
Yeah, if you just randomly
If you
pick one.
stereotype,
Yeah, if you're
want
stereotyping.
stereotypes, us two.
I
Go for it. Don't worry. None of
Yeah,
us will be
we,
around.
we won't
The
take
eye
it
contact
personally.
there.
don't know.
This is just like a little social experiment
don't
we're
know.
doing live.
I really don't know.
But
What?
who would you be more inclined to
So
lean
let's ask a
towards?
female then, maybe.
So
What do you think?
obviously, if you're looking at stereotypes, everyone would just assume it was you, right?
Why?
Because it's just that
Here we
that taboo, that stereotype where everyone's just like, okay, yeah, just because look at the way she's dressed,
Yeah.
or look she's
not
got her
dressed
hair
any-
out.
She's just
Not
decent.
her, not right now, but like in general, like say if she went out and how like
Yeah,
you're dressing,
dresses or heels.
yeah, you're
Is that
dressing, you're
generally
wearing
the answer
heels.
that you get?
Yeah,
Oh.
the general
All women
answer.
here are nodding. So
Really?
now that we're
Oh.
nodding and the men are not nodding,
I was gonna say
I
you.
didn't know because I don't
I
answer.
was gonna say her.
okay.
Because you thought it was a trick question.
No,
You
no,
thought
no,
you-
no, 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 not because of that. Just because she's more, I don't know, more traditional. Maybe it's a reaction to something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
usually
Maybe
what
she's
it-
trying to hold on.
yeah.
I don't know, but
Usually the perception is that if someone's dressed provocatively or they're wearing like
What in our
or
community
what
we
we
call
think.
provocative, which
Yeah.
is like if you've got your hair down or you're well maintained and you're well groomed, then you must be asking for it. You must have lured somebody into that situation to attack you. You're asking for it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who looks like me, you would assume generally in society that I would be a less likely victim. The reason that we need these conversations in mixed gender is this, that we can go back generations. I wasn't trying to blanket okay everybody and saying, you know what, our generations did as well. No, they really screwed us over hard. But there's reasons for it as well when we look into the psychology and what happened as well. That doesn't justify it. Sexual abuse, rape, all of these things have existed for thousands and thousands of generations across all cultures across the world. It doesn't make it okay. Yes, the bad habits of these predators that existed in India when they came over to England, they brought them along with them. All they did was find different ways to camouflage and exist in plain sight. Women are aware of this. When I would sit with my elders, like, you know, when we have family functions and the men are in one room and they're getting pissed and the women are in the kitchen and they're cooking the food for the drunk men, right? This is how I grew up as well, the same as all of you guys. Except when the women are together, they're saying to you as young women, don't go there, don't sit next to him, don't hug him, right? Because they know who is risky and who isn't, and they're like, okay, don't, right? Make sure your brothers are there with you or somebody's with you. So they're already aware of these situations, but they weren't in a position to actually remove that person out of your social circle.
But why do you think that's
But-
the case? Why is it the case, like, when they know that person is a wrong one, basically? I'm not going to call this person out. I'm not going to address it to protect the next
They
generation.
come from that
Family,
generation though, from
unity.
silence,
Yeah.
right? Because if I'm sorry, but like say if you were that person and I'm trying to call you out, right?
I'm not.
He's not, but I'm just saying, for
Disclaimer.
example,
Yeah.
right? And you're being called out, you're going to kick up a fuss. And men hold the dominance. Everyone around you, your homeboys, they're going to stick up for you and say, no, he's not like that. Why are you saying that, right, to the woman?
I think
And
it
she's
comes-
going to get shut down. But there was never the opportunity to call people out, is what I'm trying to say. And these conversations are common amongst women. And we know that this happens. We were talking about this earlier before we came on air, is that the Me Too movement, when it kicked off like 3 years ago, the people that it shook was men.
Yeah.
Where men were surprised that, hang on, how could there be this many women who are hashtagging this and reposting and retweeting? How could it be that many? I guarantee you there's not a woman in your lives that you know who has never been through sexual harassment or some sort of sexual abuse. I guarantee you that.
You were talking about that doesn't have to be like sexual abuse or sexual violence. Sexual harassment could be like where someone's talking to you and suddenly
Derogatory
their line of vision just goes down. And we as women, we can see it when your line of vision is from here to there. We can see that, you know. We can pick it up. We experience it all the time. Or it could be like I don't know. It could be someone you're seeing on public transport
past
and
you.
they're purposely touching their leg against your leg.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that thing is, what that term is called now. But there's so many little things, and everyone has gone through something.
I would go, and you know, I know it's not easy, but like you said, there was an unspoken thing where the women would know which one to, which I'm going not to go to, and they'll kind of pre-warn you. They're watching crimes happen, and they're allowing it to happen, so they were wrong.
Again, but
So
it comes...
no, you can say again, but let me just finish something. You know, when I was young, I saw things happening that were wrong, and I stood up for them.
But then, were you
I don't care.
labelled as something?
I don't really care what I was
See,
labelled
I
for.
would speak out,
yeah,
and I would be
why not?
labelled at Baldi Botia,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know
Dvan
what?
Chaldia.
At
It
least
comes
you
back to
did it.
family
Yeah, but
you kept quiet
yeah.
yourself then.
No, as in, like, I've not gone through it, but as in, when I would see other people and I would raise
I would
my
say the
voice.
ladies out there, the
Yeah.
mothers and the aunties, because I've been in those situations,
Yeah.
who have kept quiet because of all her hair,
Yeah.
they're wrong themselves.
Yeah.
In this country,
I
you see a crime committed and you didn't do anything about
Yeah.
it, you get the same sentence.
Yeah, and then there is the other
Those
side.
are crimes against their own children.
Yeah.
And they allowed it to happen because of the pride factor. But who are they protecting, you or him?
Yeah.
Him. And that's what's going on today. And it happened all these years. So our culture needs to accept all those people who have done that. You're wrong.
Yeah.
So we didn't have no courage or confidence to say that this is wrong. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because they weren't protecting you by saying, so, watch out for him. That's real protection. It's sugarcoating it.
Okay, I agree with you, but I can't blame those women because they
They've been
were
brought up like to
they
think
were
that way.
conditioned
Great.
to
I was
abuse of
brought
their
up a
own.
different way. My daughter, my sisters, and my
Yeah, but
daughter was
if
brought
we
up a
go back
different
to
way.
the-
I would tell them my family wasn't like
I think
that.
it's about
If you go back
resources
to
as
the
well
80s,
and
right?
accountability.
If you go back to the 80s and you're looking at the Midlands, right? How many families do you know where there wasn't domestic abuse happening in the household?
A lot.
No, that there was not
Oh, I don't
abuse
know
happening.
about every.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was so common, right?
Yeah.
That's how we grew up.
Yeah.
So imagine when you're the woman in that household where domestic abuse is so prominent. How are you supposed to call shit out? You can't. There's
I
no.
know that.
There's
I
nothing
know
to
that. But
support you.
when your daughter's there and she's the one who's getting
But
abused.
they did the best that they could.
Okay,
by,
well, it wasn't
by
good enough.
warning
It
us.
wasn't good
It
enough
wasn't-
because you know what? You either
absolutely.
help the child or you don't.
100%,
You don't
it
say,
wasn't
"Oh,
good enough.
Tika, she's hurting," and you're allowing it, and you know what the problem is, but you're going to wait another day. You just brush that under the carpet, that kid. Okay, well,
when
that's
you-
not a mother
that's-
to me
the
then.
thing
That's a
is-
defeated.
The thing is,
defeated.
though, and I
People,
think
mothers
about-
go through hell and fire, and so do husbands, so do the fathers. I have a daughter too. But if I saw that happening, I would not. I swear, if I saw one of that, I would call him out there and then. And that's why I am who I am. And right from day one, when I was thinking about the songs that I sang about, people used to call me. People say, "What's he doing there? He's trying to be black. He's trying to be that." Well, you know what? You just said that's the first album you bought. Because we were going against the grain. Who's going against the grain in that world? You guys
And
are
now,
setting up things.
let me just come back to you. So now, imagine how you've behaved and how you've reacted. Imagine if I was a mother and back in those days and I reacted the same way you did. As a woman, standing up for her daughter, I would be classified as the demented mother or the mother that has allowed her daughter to be abused and touched. And
Okay,
now
so what
we're
are they
going to
doing now? They're
different
taking the daughter and they're going to a home and
Yeah,
living
but
there.
the fathers
Yeah.
are
Going
equally
there.
responsible,
Going there.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
we
are,
should-
they
yeah.
are, but the father's ignoring it anyway.
Yeah.
The mother's the one who knows and can do something about
Yeah.
it. If the father's ignoring, shame on him too.
Yeah.
Shame on him too because he knows about the
But
uncle.
like now, I feel like women, right, even like mothers, like before I think like what Jasvir was saying, like they had to perhaps rely on the breadwinner for like financial and whatnot. Now, a lot of mothers and women have financial independence themselves. They don't have to rely.
I'm just trying
yeah.
to accept
Yeah.
one thing, that it's not a daughter and a woman
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, no,
it's,
of course
it's a
not.
human
I agree with
problem.
you.
It's
I
a
agree.
male
Yeah.
problem.
I agree.
Yeah?
Yeah, I agree.
And if we're creating the problem, it's our problem.
Oh, I definitely
but
think-
when you guys stand
Yeah.
up, it always seems like, not disrespect, but to the world, oh, we're the harder man, look at the girl. It's the men that need to stand with you.
Yeah.
They need to
Yeah.
stand with you.
100%.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree.
united.
And this is what we need. We need men to
100%.
support the movement because women will support
I
it
don't see any
anyway.
women's groups that I work with, any men involved.
No, but
Yeah.
Patrick,
And why is
They're
that?
the villains.
No, but-
And why is
Because
that?
they're the villains, but we're not all
So-
villains.
Yeah.
So how are
Yeah.
you tagging us then?
Yeah.
Look at us
Absolutely.
women standing up and look at we're all the same then. I ain't the same.
No,
Yeah,
but
right.
actually, this kind of goes back to a problem all the other guests we've had, right, where we've spoken about communication. It's that fear of communication in any household regarding anything which is not, you know what I mean, nice. You want to talk about sex in a household, in an Asian household, it's near enough
So
impossible.
what I'm saying is, where's the line of not talking about something that's taboo
No, but that's
and
the
then
thing.
seeing someone actually
It's-
hurt of
it's-
your flesh and
it's
blood?
until people start...
Where do you draw the line?
But it's until people start speaking up and saying that, you know what I mean, what you done was wrong. This is how we should be doing. This is why we should be doing it. Stop hurting the victims. That's never been spoken about. We've never spoken about the impact it has on victims. It's always, that's been done. But it's like, okay, put that aside for a second, right? Every single household needs to know that you need to speak up. And when you speak up, the community is there to support you. The community is not going to shun you and say, you shouldn't have done that. It's, let us help you. Let's figure out why.
So that's what we're here for. Like, in terms of, we have launched a survey. So we've launched a survey basically where we're going to capture this. And it's never been done before. Core Voices are no one's ever done this. We want to capture data into how prevalent this issue is within the South Asian community.
You can't mess with figures, you can't mess with statistics.
And so what we want to do is push this, because the wider the participant list is, the better representative this will be of the issue and how severe it is. And then once we've got data, you can't argue with that. We know it. We all know it happens. We all know this happens. But how severe is the issue? And I know we're not going to be able to capture a whole holistic image of every single victim. But we're asking people to fill this survey because, A, if you're a victim, fill it in. Or if you know someone. So if you know someone that has been a victim, fill it in 30 times if you have to, 30 different victims. And the reason is because once we've got this information, we can proceed with measuring outcomes, right? And indicators from that data. We will analyze this data. We will come up with maybe say 5 key priorities that we've learned from this data, and then have measurable indicators, and we will work with those indicators, and we will go to settings where we will sort of present this information and ask, for example, even religious settings to come on board with us, because how are you going to disprove the data? You won't be able to, and we're going to get backlash.
And
we know that.
Backlash, and Apache, I want to bring you on this.
We're going to get this.
In the entertainment industry, so you're from the music industry, you guys are from the dancing industry. I've been in both sides of the industry. When artists have been kind of called out for this kind of behavior, that victim is quickly shut down. And that artist fan base will support that artist, but he could never do this because of his status. That artist could come out and deny it. In this industry, it is happening. People using their status to kind of abuse women. You look at, the dance scene, and I'm not just talking about, the Bhangra scene, I'm talking about scenes and beyond. There's been stories where you hear these things, like South Asians are doing it to each other.
All the time.
And then the thing is we're not going to talk about it, because if I talk about it, I'm going to bury my career. Or if we support that victim against that artist, my career might be buried, because that artist is a bigger artist. This issue is way, way beyond just a community issue. It is across all.
Can I ask a question to the men here on the table, because I'm just intrigued, right? So, for example, say if you're hanging around with your friends and male friends, what is for example, I feel like there's a difference between banter about how people might perceive women, and then.
With me, I don't.
Okay, maybe not with yourself, but there usually is. And then there's about, if you've seen something, do you talk about it with your male friends? I know, on the drive here, we were discussing loads of cases. And with my social circle, with my friends, we, over coffee, would just talk about, oh my God, he done this, she said this, or about sexual abuse, or did you know that, this is how they behaved. I'm just wondering, do males talk about this with other males, about victims and how wrong that is? Because I feel like this is a discussion, we were talking earlier, that students have, for example, with each other. I know we have it in our sort of work settings, in our professional fields. So do men have these conversations?
I personally, I've had these discussions with, friends that have been victim to it.
But not victims. Not victims. Just your male friends that you're going to night out.
It's a case of, I'm telling you this in confidence because I need to let it out.
But that's different.
But don't let it go anywhere else.
Yeah, so what she's saying is it something that you guys generally converse about in your male circles outside of any victims coming to speak to you?
Why not? Because it's not.
You guys actually talk about why isn't it?
So they make them.
You think a man's going to come and tell you that he's been?
No,
not in that context. I think she means as if
wider
you
context.
and your friends are just chilling. Are you guys going to speak about these topics? This has happened.
We may speak about girls. All guys speak about guys, and girls speak about guys.
No, not even that. Not even that.
No, we don't. I mean, and if they do that, they're only going to get a reaction from people who do the same thing.
The last incident that I had of sexual assault was in 2017. And it was the whole reason that I started Core Voices. And it was in a situation, so I practice Sikh spiritual music. That is my professional background. I'm a Sikh music therapist. And we had a performance booked, which was in an auditorium in San Francisco. I was there with my team. of men who I trust, who are like family to me, okay? And it wasn't any of these guys before you guys start thinking, okay? These guys have my back. And we're in this environment, our percussionist, our tabla player, couldn't join us. And at the last minute, like the day before, cancelled on us. He had a family emergency. And we were trying to scrounge to find somebody in that area because I didn't have much of a network in San Francisco. So we put up a post on social media and saying, does anybody know anybody? And then through the grapevine, somebody, we got a number, we reached out to this person, and there was some like kind of vague acquaintance with this person. So it's like, oh, he might be cool. Let's call him. He agreed, he came. And what happened was after the performance, where essentially what we've done is Geethan. That's what we shared on the stage, and we did some instrumental stuff and all of that great stuff. Now, this is my zone. This is when I'm in my happy place, let's say, right? So my team's on the stage, I'm packing the instruments in the green room, and this guy catches me in a moment where I'm alone. The next thing that I realize, I'm trying to get out of the room, and he's got the door locked shut with his foot, and he's bigger than me, right? I'm being fucking chokeholded against a fucking wall, and he's doing all sorts to me, and I freeze. So anybody who's out there saying, oh, you should have punched him, you should have kicked him in his balls, you should have this, that, and the other. In that moment, when somebody blindsides you, your body's going to react
Like
in fight, flight, or freeze. That's it. And I wasn't in my space of vigilance. If I was outside of my music zone and I was out on the street, I'd have my radar on, I'd have my firewall and my guard up, and no one's going to fuck with me. But in that moment, he caught me when I didn't have my guard up. I was in my zone. I was still buzzing from what we just done. And all I was thinking in my head afterwards was, I'm in a zone where I'm connecting with something spiritual, and this guy is sitting on the stage thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the other to her afterwards. That really messed with me. In that moment, I couldn't figure out what had happened. I didn't tell my team because these men who are like my brothers would have destroyed this guy. And I knew that, and we were supposed to fly back the next day. I told them like weeks later. But the person who I confided in first was like a brother to me, a younger brother in that moment, who supported me to get through that next day so I could get back home. And then when I came back, and I was really messed up, my younger brother, he was like, what's going on? And he's my rock. And I told him what happened. And I could see his anger, and I could see his pain, and I could see his eyes saying, I want to kill this son of a, right? And he looked at me and he was like, what are you feeling? And I was like, I feel like I fucking failed myself again. I feel like it was my fault. And he was like, how was it your fault? And I said, I don't know, I can't figure it out, and it's messing with my head. And he said, hang on a second. And he helped me put the dots together, that I was in my zone, I was in my happy place, and that guy violated that space for me. And because of that reason, I wasn't able to respond in the way that I would have liked to. And my support system throughout that first, like the crucial first year of trying to come to terms with this abuse and actually put it all together in my head, was men. My teacher, my team, my brother. This was my support system. So I'm not out here to shit on men. It was men that held me and said to me, you know what? You got to fight this, and we got your back. It was my brother that said to me, I don't give a shit what people out there say and how they label you. I'm with you. I got your back. You do what you got to do. And knowing that I've got that support behind me helped me to go inside and soul search and choose to go and make a complaint to the police. It took me a year to get my shit together. It took me a year of really using my tools of Sikh music to rebuild my emotional self and be ready to step into that fire, knowing what it comes with, knowing the shame, knowing the labeling, knowing all of that other crap that's going to come with it, but also knowing that I don't have a choice. If I'm put in this situation, I have a social responsibility. That's the path that I walk as a Sikh. I choose that path, but now I have to show up for it in action. And I can either run away from and have the excuses and say, no, not me. The next person will come and do it. Or I can step forward and say, all right, you know what? If these are the cards I'm dealt, I'll play them and I'll do the best that I can. And that's what happened. And I went back and I made a report to the police. And that's still in process at the moment. It went sideways and it went forward and it went a little bit backwards, and it's not easy to seek legal justice either. We can idealize and say, you know what, go to the police and report it.
Especially
The
if
system
it's in
fails you.
different country.
We're in San Francisco, and I went a year later. Now there's no evidence, right? So how do we do this? It's a he said, she said. The police were great. They were so supportive. The detective who was working my case, he was incredible, and he helped me and coached me through a lot of the processes, and we had to get evidence. I had to get on a phone call with this guy, and I had to fucking pretend I should win an award for acting in that situation, man, because I had to be cool. Can you imagine having to speak to the person? And honestly, for that whole year, I cancelled all my bookings in San Francisco. In that whole area, like the thought of going to California gave me anxiety. I would freak out. Just the thought of seeing him, it messed with me hard. So when we're talking about childhood trauma, it's real.
It's real.
And it carries through the whole of your life if you're not doing the work. And what I realized in all of this, all the people I'm speaking to, and everywhere that I'm looking, there is an abundance of victims. There are not enough survivors. I was lucky. I was lucky that I had the tools to support me in that journey. I was lucky that I had an incredible support system which consisted of incredible men that had my back. And I was fortunate enough to be given the support to get to the point of getting justice. But that is not support that is afforded to other victims, and that is the gap. We don't have the space to support a victim to become a survivor and move on with their life. Everyone's stuck in that mindset because the system's failed us.
And hence the guys are going to carry on going away with it because
They're going to get away with it until we change it. But the thing is, we've got to work in it in different ways.
They got you on your own.
The priority,
one-to-one.
for me, the priority here is firstly showing up for the victims. Yes, there's stuff that we've got to change in our infrastructure. Yes, we've got to re-educate men and women and all of that other stuff. But right now, if you're saying, what are we doing right now? Right now, what we're trying to do is tell every victim out there that you're not alone, and we can break the silence.
Yeah, but at the same
and
time,
there's no shame
at the
to
same
this.
time, I always tell the same victim that was in your shoes, when you came out of that situation, you're going to wait a year.
But can I say, I think it's like, I think we forget.
I'm just saying, if there's someone listening now,
But the thing
what
is,
would you
it's
tell them?
different.
Would you go
I would
home
tell
for a
them.
year
No, but I
and
think
think
like
about
for
it?
example,
I would
Jasvir
say
as
to
well,
them
like,
that
she said she felt
go
tainted
and get
and-
support.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if that happened to someone now,
Yeah.
what would you say to them? Would you not say to report it now?
No,
To
but
I
we
would say
them.
go and
But-
get support.
But then we would
you
advise
want to
them.
get support before you tell the
Yeah.
police
No,
about
but
the
the thing
criminal.
is, but this is the
But
thing. I think
it's
it's like it's
difficult,
advice
man.
for the person that's gone through it. You have to think like Jasvir just said, she felt tainted.
If
I
you'd
understand
have,
that,
if
I
you'd have
understand
said,
that.
if you'd have said that to me that moment, if
Yeah.
you were standing next to
Yeah.
me and you're the first person that I turned to and
Yeah.
said, this just happened to
Yeah.
me, and you said, let's go and report it to the police, I would have said, F you.
Yeah.
Right.
Because in that moment, I wasn't ready. I was not put together enough to
What
go.
I'm saying to you
like the
is,
whole
I understand
process
that. I
of going
understand
through,
that.
going
You
to the
need
police, right?
support and then police. I get
It's
it.
too
What I'm
much,
saying
man.
is, I understand that. But for the young person that's out there listening, in that year, that guy probably did it another 20 times.
No, but that's like
I want to stop the guy. I want to stop the guy.
I understand both points, but it's easier said than done.
Yes.
I get that. I get
That's
that.
literally it.
Looking from the outside,
But I'm saying, unless we tell that person watching this,
No,
that it's
100%.
okay to wait for a year because yours
No,
and
that's
you
not
need
what
to.
I'm saying.
It's
I'm
not
saying
saying,
that
it's
we
not
have-
saying waiting forever.
Or whether it's, what I'm
The
just
thing
saying is
is-
that if that didn't happen, that situation,
Yeah.
obviously we don't want that to happen.
The person
but she was
who's
suffering
sitting
in
out
silence
there
already.
listening. Okay,
For how
so
many years?
the difference is this: the person out there who's listening, who needs support, the first thing I'd say to them is reach to Core Voices, because every victim
Are we
needs
listening?
something different.
Where can they find you?
Corevoices.org or Instagram.
Corevoices.org,
org.
Instagram, websites.
But can I just say that
So
you know,
what I'm trying to say is that
Go ahead, Jen.
every victim needs something different.
Yeah,
In
I was
that
gonna say.
moment, I didn't need for my team to beat the shit out of this guy because they would have been locked up in prison and not been able to go home the next day to their families, right? I didn't need that in that moment because that would have been your version of justice, not my version of justice. And the
So he's
problem
thinking
here,
logically. I'm
the
saying
problem
you're
here is
thinking
that
logically under pressure.
you can't
You're looking
be
out for everybody else.
you can't be my voice.
I know. No.
I have to be my voice. This is the problem because even in your love right now, saying that you want to take down every perpetrator, you're not supporting me as a victim. And I'm saying right now, fuck the perpetrators. Focus on the victims. There's too many people out there who
If I
are
don't
walking
focus on
with
the-
emotional
if I don't-
wounds. Give me one
Yeah,
second.
go on, yeah.
Who have emotional wounds that are bleeding out, right? We need to go and tend those wounds and support them to get strong enough so they can figure out what justice looks like for them. For some of them, they just want an apology. For some of them, they want legal justice. Others want to kick the shit out of that guy, right? Everybody needs something different. Some of them just need therapy, and that's all they want. They want to move on with their life, right? And it is about giving the stage to the victims and saying, what do you need and how do we show up for you? Not you have to do what I think you need to do. That's part of the problem.
What I'm trying to say to you is that what you're saying is absolutely right. You've got to look at the victim first. But unless you look at the perpetrator, there's 10 more victims.
But the thing is,
that's what I'm saying.
You're
That you could have stopped.
preventative.
That you could have
You're
stopped. That's what I'm
preventative. But
saying.
we're saying, like, for example, like in the survey,
that's two different journeys you're looking at. There's a journey of the actual, victim, which you have to look after.
Yeah, of course.
And then there's the journey of catching the perpetrator.
Yeah, but we know the perpetrator already.
But then it's
not just.
But it's like
We know the
for
perpetrator
example-
in these kind of
No, no, of
situations.
course, but-
Unless we address both,
Yeah.
my mental being
But
and making sure that ain't going to happen to
No,
somebody
of
else.
course, 100%. I
Because
agree.
that's how much I'm
But then
hurting.
can I say, like, with the victim, for example, let me just give you like the initial concept. For example, like with Jasvir's experience, like she said, she was frozen.
You don't think of revenge. I get it.
Yeah.
You don't think of anything
You
more than
don't.
your mental
So
health
we need
and
to
the
provide
things around you,
support.
your family,
Yeah.
everything
So
else.
if we provide support to the victim, what do they want? They might just want an apology, like Jasvir said. But then it could be like, okay, an apology is fine, but perhaps we need to look at preventative measures.
Now, as a student, how are you kind of finding the university environment? Like, from when I was there, it's going to be different. From when you guys was there, it's going to be different. Do you feel as though, for example, attitude towards the opposite genders, whether it's boy on girl or girl on boy, it's questionable sometimes, especially when people drink, they go out, nights out, etc.
I feel like a lot of people blame whatever they do on a night out on their drinks. So I feel like it's one of them ones where no one ever owns up to what they've done. It's not that much different to how it has been the previous years. I feel like it's pretty much the same. Everyone will go out, something will happen. I know plenty of girls who have been on nights out and something's happened. Some guys touch their butt or they're like walking past, or I know girls have been spiked like on nights out. It happens every day.
But do you think it's also like the assumption, so I don't drink, right?
Yeah.
But when I've gone out for uni nights, like back in the years, I would basically think like, okay, I've got my friends and I'm keeping an eye on them because I know like what men are doing in the clubs. But I don't drink. So if I sometimes you get a guy that go past you and maybe saying something inappropriate or try touching inappropriately, and I'd be like, sorry, what was that? Or what are you going to
that's
do?
the thing.
But they think you're drunk, so they think they can take advantage. And I'm like, I'm not drunk. Like, I know what you just said to me.
Okay.
It goes back to how you're saying certain people in certain situations. Not everyone's brave enough to call someone out just
and
like that.
I think men think that women might be drunk, that they're not in their like horshan of ours, that let's just maybe say things or inuki pada chalnaya or things like that. But actually, like you've probably seen it as well, like they take advantage of that and they know that. And then a woman might be drunk and she might not recall what's happened. And you can't hold them accountable.
My background is in education. That is the key to actually reforming this. You said that this is a big problem, and when we look at it, it seems so overwhelming, right? I am a solution-oriented thinker. That's how I look at things. And for me, the whole premise of starting Core Voices is not to go out there and create a little bit of noise and get a little bit of notice and that's it and disappear into the shadows. It's about actually making change. And if we can't measure that change, then there's no point in us being here or doing anything, right? Everything that we've looked at with Core Voices is not looking at it just from one angle. The victim is priority number one. That is where we begin our work from. The reason we need the survey is to validate men in our community who are leaders of our households, still in the South Asian community, leaders of most businesses, right? Leaders in our community and in our religious spaces. So unfortunately, we have to convince men that this is a problem. That's why we need to do the survey. Once the survey is done and we've got that groundwork established and we've got allyship from males in the community to say, we're going to stand with you to bring this reform, we've already got in the pipeline policies that we want to implement to actually bring adequate safeguarding into our community and religious settings. And in addition to that, courses and trainings that are there to support victims, that are there to support families and friends of victims, because if you don't know how to support me, then you are useless. Whatever you're thinking isn't going to make a difference for me. It's probably going to make it worse. Access to mental health resources, but also reform programs for any predators or perpetrators that want to find their way back. And this is work that my background is in seat music therapy, looking at the psychology of what creates that sort of a mindset. Yes, most of it goes back to having a messed up childhood, and people then form these messed up patterns of behavior and they justify what they're doing. It's looking at it logically and breaking it down. And when we look at it from that simplistic angle, there are solutions and we can reach them. And that's exactly what we want to do with Core Voices, which is why we need more people to come together and support us, stand with us, and we need more men with us as well. This is not a movement that supports only women. This supports all victims, and it's about bringing safeguarding back into our families, into our communities, and into our religious spaces. And we have to do it together.
So we've got a case which just came out recently where somebody is a victim and she's got mental health issues, she's got actual medical issues, and she's in an environment where she has been sexually abused, but she's got nowhere to go, right? But then you've got to take into consideration her mental health issues, and you've got to take into consideration that she might not be allowed out, her medical conditions, and like that's a lot of issues there. And people that have mental health issues are often taken advantage of. So
I've told people, I work with a domestic violence group in Birmingham. It's for women. We work very closely with them. I'm not allowed to go there. I'm not allowed to go anywhere. I don't know where it is. But I work with the organisers. We've just written a song for them. What I'm saying is, where's their voice if they can't speak? Because they're not scared.
So domestic violence is strange. I feel like it's domestic violence is like.
I mean, some of it comes with sexual violence as well. I mean, just things that go on in the home.
I think it's abuse in general. It's in
a
our
tough
community.
one.
It's been
Very
shunned
tough.
away and it's been silenced. Allyship is the way forward. And that whole idea of breaking the silence is what we need to do. To have the conversations, but then bring in education as well. That's the only way to bring change.
Being alliance with our own community, and we're
Right.
not.
It's not, but
not.
it's
We're
like
not
what
with
Tej
anything.
said. You know,
We're
like
not
what
with
you were
anything.
saying. The preference is that we all lean towards something that's easier, that doesn't require us to do work or to be associated with something that's uncomfortable. Every type of change or movement of change requires you to be uncomfortable. That's the only way difference can happen. Now, most people, they like to follow, and there's few that can lead. And I don't want to say sheeps and lions, but that's what it kind of comes down to, right? Now, the herd mentality is to go towards whatever's comfortable, whatever's easy, whatever's happy clappy. That doesn't make us look bad or require us to do any work. Self-preservation. And until we come out of that and we figure out what is it that we're hiding inside. So you asked earlier about backlash, right? I've had different types of backlash. Personally, that's come to me and then to the movement itself for Core Voices about this. And a lot of it for me, because I've studied criminology and looking at the psychological viewpoint of people and what makes people tick, I'm trying to offer compassion to those people as well by understanding that if you're feeling defensive through this movement, there's a reason behind it. It's triggering something inside of you, and either it's you're a victim and you've never had a chance to come forward, you're protecting somebody that is a perpetrator, you are a perpetrator yourself, or there's some other underlying issue that you haven't dealt with that this is hitting on, and that's causing you to react that way. So anybody out there who thinks that this doesn't happen, or they're denying the existence of the need of these movements in the work, whether it's domestic abuse or sexual abuse or child abuse, none of these things should exist in our world. We don't live in an idealistic world. This shit is everywhere. The question is, what are we going to do about it? That is the question. And we have to show up in different ways. And I understand what you were saying earlier in terms of wanting to get the perpetrators and stop them and all the rest of it. But long-term goal is not just, the first priority, as I said, is supporting victims to go on the survivor journey. That doesn't exist. There's no support out there, okay? That's number one. But then end goal is to be able to reduce the amount of perpetrators. That comes through education. Everything you're identifying, from Bollywood to the music industry, it's all about education from a young age into your adult years. However men and women are educated, we've seen the balance of how unequal a boy is raised and a girl is raised in a South Asian household, okay? Boys are princes. Girls are the little, the worker bees. They do everything, right? Boys can go out, girls can't go out. I grew up with that, and it's normal for us. It's starting to change now. Now, our generation who are becoming parents, they're able to create that change for their kids. But unless we are actually trying to address these issues, think about this for a moment. What you'll be doing is having kids in a world that is unsafe, and you are just going to expose them to the same types of abuse that we've been through. Now, do you want to live in a world knowing that you're putting more kids into this world that are going to become victims of abuse? Is that something that sits well inside of you? Because it doesn't sit well inside of
Do
me.
you have children?
No, I don't.
I have children. I've had children since I was 18. Yeah, my eldest boy is 35. I have a daughter too. You don't become a man till you have a daughter. But I can tell you something. My view changed about the world and about kids, and your views might change about certain things if you had kids. I'm just saying, yeah. But what you do is, and what you're saying is absolutely incredible. When you have a child protecting, it's your own now, not just as a victim. It's your child. Your view might change, and the advice that you give to her may be different from the advice you give. So I'm just saying that my views of life itself changed when I had children.
Of course, yeah.
And the way I deal with life when I run my academy is, and when I deal with all the charities I work with, I class them as my children.
So, you know,
and what would I do if that was my I was that child's parent?
So
Not
have
saying
you
what do
had
is wrong.
have you had difficult
So
conversations with your daughter
my-
then?
All
Do you
the
think
time.
that's
But-
really
but,
good?
But
That's
I
really
never
good.
left one conversation, because when she got in that, if she came across a
Yeah.
situation, my voice would be in it. The reason I'm very active in the community is I know that community makes a difference.
Yeah.
So when I grew up with the the youth clubs of this and
Yeah.
that. Now, when you're talking about one of our answers here, our key answers is the alliance, is everyone working together, it's education. Our people have never been working together for years on many industries and many things. That's why we don't have musicians, we don't have singers, we don't have footballers, because we don't want each other to win. So if the root of it is, can we come together and work together?
Okay.
That's the first thing we need to address. That's why we have to look at our religious building. We have to look, and if they're not working together, not just the religious with schools or this, if they're not working together, are they doing more damage together?
Okay.
So if you're not playing in the team, go and sit on the substitute bench, let the players score the goal, because you're actually stopping us.
That's a lot to take
It's a
in.
lot, it's a lot.
But this is definitely something that we'd come back and do a part 2 to, but literally, time-wise.
We have to.
Yeah.
But congratulations to you lot. I'm not taking anything away.
And I
I'm
just
just
wanna
trying to
kind
ask
of-
the questions
it's
that
good.
people want to ask.
And I
you,
just,
know what I mean?
want to kind of emphasize to everyone, like, everyone's opinion is everyone's opinion. You can't force and change people's opinions, even for those watching at home. So again, whatever your opinions are, respect each other's opinions, right? Secondly,
Depending on the opinion.
we're going to get you guys to come back, depending on the opinion, right? If it's wrong, it's wrong. But no, seriously guys, we'll have you guys definitely come back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
What you guys are doing with Core Voices, again. you
If
know,
anyone is at home struggling with obviously anything that's gone through with it, they are doing your surveys that are going on. So if anyone does know anyone or is going through something themselves, then they should go through and obviously help out with that as
And
well.
again, look, everyone around this table, I'm pretty sure your inbox is open. If someone's going to send you a message, I'm pretty sure everyone here is willing to listen. So like,
Absolutely.
everyone
Yeah.
listening at home,
100%.
don't be afraid to message
And
anyone.
you have to remember with these organisations, the key thing is it is in confidence.
Yeah, of
It
course.
is in confidence. It's
100%.
not going to go anywhere. Anyone says anything to me, a young person, it doesn't go anywhere. So that's the key thing. People are worried about your privacy is you're being protected, but don't suffer in silence.
Cool. And on that note, guys, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
We'll catch you guys soon.